Welcome to the Oricl Class 311, More Stories from the Secret City. I'm Ray Smith, and this is July the 20th, 2026. So we're glad that we have Alan Lowe with us this morning, and we have Keith McDaniel here. And my intention today is for us to focus on a new program. Well, it's a rejuvenated program, oral history program, that the Oak Ridge Discovery Foundation is running for the Department of Energy. The Department of Energy is funding this. Alan, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'll go ahead and say that it's funding it to the tune of $50,000 a year for 5 years. So we've got a good bit of enthusiasm, primarily from Eric Olds, who's the head of the environmental management group of Oak Ridge, and some other places too. He's quite a busy individual. But I'll tell you that when I talked to him about this program, he recognized the value of oral histories from his experience at the Hanford site. So it was not a matter of me having to sell him on the idea at all. It was just a matter of him figuring out how to fund it because he wanted it to restart. And with that, Alan, I will let you take over from here and talk about that, and not just the oral history program. You've got lots of other things that are going on with the foundation.
Oh, thank you, Ray. Thank you, everyone. Always appreciate the opportunity, and I really appreciate Ray and Oricl. Always great to talk with you guys. I do have just a couple of things as we start, then we'll jump into oral history. Great things are happening at AMSI and the Atomic History Campus at K25, and one of them, Ray already used the name, the Oak Ridge Discovery Foundation. We recently announced the name change of what used to be the AMSI Foundation into this more larger entity, essentially an umbrella foundation that oversees AMSI, the K25 History Center, the Wilcox Interpretive Center at K25, and now the portal, and all the other subsidiary things we do, like AMSI Cast and so forth. So we thought it was time for that name change. You'll see some new logos for AMSI and K25 as well. Been working with a group called the Thought Bureau to do this, and our great crew here. So we're very excited about that new direction. Next one, Marcus. Just a few things happening at our facilities. Information Nation is the current special exhibit in our Innovators Gallery. 250 years of American leadership in information tech. So everything from the telegraph to quantum computing, a lot of fun interactive things there. We just had a family science Saturday using some of that, having telegraph contests and so forth. Kids got to type on typewriters of all things, and had a blast. I think we had some 200 people participating in that family science Saturday. So a great exhibit here through the end of the year, toward the end of the year. So make sure you come and see that at AMSI. We just got a great new mural at AMSI, thanks to the Dogwood Arts folks and Jim Dotson. So that was just put in this last Friday. At the K25 campus, so many things are happening, and that's been a great area of growth for us. We opened the Wilcox Interpretive Center late last year, and then early this year opened Portal 4, have been renovated for us by the Community Reuse Organization of East Tennessee. They gave us the portal that essentially is like a visitor center now for the site, as an exhibit, as a shop in it. It will eventually have things like rentals of bikes and so forth. But also we have the Portal Perk, which is our coffee and energy drink cafe. It's open Monday through Saturday. Go check it out. Have a lot of great drinks there. It's kind of a fun place to start your visit at the K25 campus. And frankly, it's been very popular also with the more and more people who are working at the Heritage Center in places like Kairos, as they have more and more employees out there. So Portal Perk and Portal 4, a great new addition to our portfolio at the Oak Ridge Discovery Foundation. While I'm at it, make sure you check out AMSI Cast and the AMSI Science Report. AMSI Cast is our podcast. The AMSI Science Report is every Saturday morning on WUOT. I take snippets from the podcast, and with Marcus and Matt's help, I create 4-minute reports that we send out to 91.9 FM WOT. So I'm very proud of the AMSI Science Report. Also online, we have the STEM of History. As you guys might know, I have a history background. So we have those interviews where we combine history and science and show how the two overlap kind of as a series of AMSI casts. So make sure you check those out. We have some new educator. We have Stefan, a new educator, getting ready to hire another educator. Our education portfolio is gigantic. We just finished our summer camps. They were very successful. This year we had a 3-day camp that was called the Panorama of Science, which was our excuse to throw in a bunch of topics. But then we had a 1-day nuclear camp and a 1-day AI camp. Very popular, a lot of fun, a lot of kids participating. Very proud of what we accomplished with the camps. All right, if you go to the next slide.
Wait just a minute before you leave that one, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
These AMSI cast, AMSI Science Report, STEM of History, all of that is available at amsc.org. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are. They are all there, and I have that at the very end of the presentation, so we'll have that up there if you want to write that down. But all at amsc.org.
Okay.
And if you want to listen to the podcast as well, if you listen to podcasts and use something like Spotify or Apple, they're on those platforms as well.
Good. And I while I'm talking, I forgot to tell the class, and I always do try to remind them, you can interrupt Alan at any time. Just do what I did. Just start talking, and he will hush and listen to you and answer your question. Okay, Alan, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. I hushed not only because it was Ray Smith, but I will do that for anyone. So yes, please let me know. All right, next slide, please. Just a few things we have upcoming just to put on your calendar. And again, you can go to amsc.org, amsc.org, and find this information as well. We have an expo at the Senior Center on the July 24th. We have different activities that day, including a presentation by me. We have monthly bird walks. These have proven to be extraordinarily popular. They're the third Wednesday of every month at the UT Arboretum right here in town. And the next one's on August 19th at 8 a.m. Just go to the Arboretum and we'll line up. Sometimes we have to have two separate tours on the same day. There's so many people who go out for these bird walks. We team up with other museums and financial planners in town to talk about wills and estate planning, plan giving, that type of thing. That next event is on August 26th. Now, if any of you are on the dating scene, we have a speed dating event here on September 25th, and we're going to talk about the science of attraction. I'm staying away from that one, ladies and gentlemen, but it's going to be a great event here at AMSI on September 25th. Let's see, Nuclear Science Week. We were the national lead of that last year, but this year we're doing other activities associated with it. The week of October 19th through the 23rd, and on October 24th, put in your calendars, we have a big Nuclear Education Day. Lots of family-friendly activities about nuclear and about kids thinking about careers in the nuclear arena. Now, two more things just done.
Alan, yes, do you plan to have another dirt tour this year?
Yes, we're talking about trying to arrange something like that, Ray. So yes, more details to come, but that was so popular.
Yeah.
Very popular. Yeah, so we would love to do that again and even expand it if we could. So yeah, we're talking about that right now.
Yeah, just to let the class members know, that tour featured new companies coming into town like TriSoX, Areno, Kairos Power, and it really was very well attended and I think very helpful to let people know what these new companies are about and let them actually see what can be seen at the sites. And by the way, there's construction going on at a lot of them, land clearing going on at others. So I hope you can pull that off again this year.
Yes, I know. And after that, you worked with Carolyn and got those articles in the Oak Ridge as well. So that was a great summary of that dirt tour. So yeah,
we'll do that again for you.
Yeah, just stay on amsc.org and we'll get all those details out there. And then last thing I wanted to mention is, we do the DOE public facility bus tours every Thursday, Friday, and Monday. And we have special bus tours coming up because for the last couple of years, we haven't been able to go to the graphite reactor at the lab because of construction around it. We've seen other cool things like the normal tour this year, we go see the quantum computing area. And we never get inside of Y12. We always go to the Y12 Visitor Center, but getting into that very secure campus, as you know, is not an easy thing to do. But we've gotten special arrangements on September 17th and November 19th. We'll have special bus tours that will go to the graphite reactor, and inside Y12, you can go see the calutrons. So it is very special, very unique event. We don't get to do this often, but they're filling up quickly. So go to amse.org and go to the bus tour link, and you can sign up there to go on those special bus tours, or if you want to go on the normal bus tour as well, that's where you sign up for those. But September 17th, November 19th are the two bus tours.
Alan, I got feedback from Taz Painter at Y12. He really does want to do those tours as often as they can into 9731. And his reaction to the one tour you've already done is really very, very positive. He saw that it was easy enough to do. He saw that the people, now these people didn't know they were going on a special tour. They just picked it and went. And he was amazed at what their reaction was to being able to go inside 9731. So I expect to see that becoming more and more routine. But you're right, 2 special tours scheduled for the rest of this year. And folks, you need to sign up now because those tours fill up online very quickly.
Yeah. Definitely doing, again, Taz has been instrumental in this. Taz and Gene Patterson both helpful, but Taz took it and ran with it. And Katie's been helpful at the lab as well, getting into graphite reactor. And that's, as you know, just a matter of that construction. Hopefully that construction will someday be finished, and we'll be able to get back in the graphite reactor as part of the normal tour. So those are just some upcoming things. Next, I want to talk generally about oral history, and this is definitely want Keith to go in here. You know, I've been involved with different oral histories throughout my career. At the Baker Center, we did some great interviews with different Tennessee politicians. We had the Modern Political Archives there. Talked a lot to Senator Baker on tape. I remember Congressman Clement. I went over and he said to me, Alan, I might be able to talk to you for an hour, maybe 2 hours. And I think we ended up getting 18 hours with him over time. So I've done a lot of oral history with the presidential libraries. I worked with the Miller Center, particularly at the George W. Bush Library, and they do a ton of oral history work there with former presidents. At SMU, they created something called the Center for Presidential History, headed by Jeff Engel, became a good friend. And part of his work, not all of it, but part of it was an oral history project that was more topical. So they would do oral histories on things like the war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan, the surge in Iraq, those types of things, very topical, very oriented just toward those things. I think they're amazing resources to have when you get those insights and perspectives from real actors in those events. We always called it the raw material of history. So extraordinarily important to get it while you can get it. It's not going to be there forever. You go into it understanding that people will have memories that are a little skewed sometimes. They've have facts that might not be exactly right because it's been 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. All these things are fine. You understand that going in, and the benefit you get from it, the amazing historical resource it provides to you, it's all worth it. So if you can go to the next slide, know that Oak Ridge Public Library already had, thanks to the hard work of Keith, a lot of oral histories in their Center for Oral, Oak Ridge Center for Oral History. And that process had been going on for a while, but about 6 years ago, and tell me if I'm wrong, Keith, that had exhausted its funding, and that oral history had not continued. So there's already a great set of oral histories there at the library, a great resource, very well done by Keith, but it had run through that course. And I was there, if you can go to the next slide, when Ray Smith went up to Eric Olds and said, you know, what's the deal? We need to get this started again. So I got to give Ray a lot of credit. He was on this And he's right. When he said this to Eric, Eric's eyes kind of lit up. And thanks to Eric and his compatriots, I know Steve Cook, Mark McIntosh, certainly the folks in Chicago and Washington with DOE who were helpful in this. It's really, really good to work with. And we got that 5-year, $250,000 grants essentially over the 5 years. We anticipate about 220 interviews. Big topics that we will touch upon include the Manhattan Project, Cold War, remediation, the cleaning up in Oak Ridge, and the nuclear renaissance. It's already underway, and I'll let Keith speak to that, but and we're going to play a couple of excerpts here, but already underway. We're excited about the progress and having these resources that we will share with the Oak Ridge Public Library and that we will put on YouTube. It's just, again, a great resource that public historians and others can use to really understand the unique history, the special history of our Oak Ridge. So with that, Keith, I don't know if you want to say anything there about what you've been up to.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Alan, Ray, as you mentioned, the oral history program started about 15 years ago for the Center for Oak Ridge Oral History. It was funded by DOE, and it ran for about 9 years. And I had a contract. I wasn't the only person who did the oral histories, but I probably did about half of them over the course of the 9 years that we did them. And they were primarily Manhattan Project folks, people who worked at the Manhattan Project, or maybe family members of people that came here because of the Manhattan Project. We did a little bit of Cold War, but not a whole lot. And so the like I said, it's like Alan said, 6 years ago, funding stopped for that. So we stopped doing those. And then, of course, Ray and his compatriots got together and stirred up some more funding for it, and which I don't think it would have happened without Ray's work, but and his persistence. But yeah, so we've got this new project. Before it was managed by the city and managed by the library, and this time, obviously, it's being managed by the Discovery Foundation. And we talked about what can we do a little bit different, or are there other things? And as Alan said, he outlined the 4 different areas that that we were going to address in these new oral histories. Right before, we correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this kind of all started back last fall. We started really pursuing this with real effort, and it took several months for it to be funded. Funding started at the end of April of this year. And for those of you who don't know, I decided 5 years ago in my retirement years that I was going to become a high school teacher. So 5 years ago, I was asked to start a program in Kingston at Roane County High School in Kingston, teaching audio and video production. So I'm getting ready to start my 6th year. I don't know if it's the smartest or the dumbest decision I ever made, but it's important. People say all the time, well, at least you enjoy it. And I'm like, I'm not sure enjoy would be the correct word. I think it's important. And I've seen some results of students who have really found something that they're interested in. And because I did this professionally for over 40 years, I come at it with not an academic perspective, but a workforce perspective, and say this is what the real world is like in that area, those fields. Just an example of that, because it is a class that they're not required to take. It's an elective. If they have those electives available, they can take it as many times as they want. And this year, I will have a student who will graduate this year. She'll be a senior this year. Of her 8 semesters in high school, she will have had me 7. She will have had one of my courses for 7 semesters out of her 8. But anyway, so when we started this in the spring, I told Alan and Ray, I said, listen, I want to get on this summer really hard and heavy because I've got 2 months that I don't have to be in school. And I said, I would like to do about half of those interviews this summer. So we've got 1 more week. This week is my last full week of summer break. We go back to school next Wednesday. And at the end of this week, I will have done about 25 of these oral histories this summer in the last 2 months. Speaking of Eric Olds, who funded this, I did his oral history on Friday. Plan to deliver it to AMSI today. And it was I'd met him, but I didn't know him. It was a very fascinating oral history. And I can see from his background why he's so interested in it. I told him in the middle of the interview, and these oral histories are very conversational. Okay, like Alan was speaking a while ago. When I sit down with someone, I do not have a set of questions. Okay. I know a little bit about the person, or I'll try to find out something about the person, just to kind of know what to talk about. But we just sit down and we just have a conversation, and I'll let the next question be based upon the answer that they gave me, and in the middle of I'll try to go about 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes it's a little over, sometimes it's a little under, because most people can speak that long without getting tired. And before, it was a lot of older people. So I had to be very aware of their ability to sustain a long conversation. But now we're not as many older people. Some of these are younger, like Eric the other day. I think his was 49 minutes long. And I told him in the middle of the interview, I said, Eric, it's obvious that you come from a communications and public relations background because you speak in sound bites, which means short and to the point and don't add anything extra. And he laughed at that. I said, which is great for someone in your position. But yeah, we just have a conversation and we just talk. And I record my voice. I'm not on camera, but I record my voice. I put a microphone with me so people that are watching or listening to these can hear the full conversation. I love doing these. I enjoy sitting down with people and talking with them, learning things from them. As I said before, with the first effort, the Center for Oak Ridge Oral History, I lost count how many I did. It was somewhere between 400 and 450 that I did over the course of 9 years. And these 5 years, like Alan said, we'll do between 200 and 220 or so over the course of these years. And that, along with my documentary work that I've done, I've produced 16 historical documentary films and done lots of interviews with those. I'm confident that I've done well over 1,000 on-camera interviews, long-form interviews. So I'm used to talking to people. I've sort of learned what works and what doesn't. I've learned what to do when someone doesn't want to talk or doesn't want to answer a question. And And so it's a really good fit for me to be able to do these kinds of things because I like doing them and I enjoy learning from people and asking people about their lives. That's one of the things that I always start out with is, and I teach my students this, when someone's on camera, they're always going to be, no matter how experienced they are, they're going to be a little bit nervous, just maybe a little bit tense. So you want to warm them up. You want to get them feeling comfortable. And I will go in and maybe I'll go to them and I'll set up all my gear. I don't take a crew. I do it all myself. And if the person's in the room, I'll chat with them a little bit while it takes me 20 minutes or so to set up all the cameras and lights and microphones. And that kind of warms them up. But I also get people, the first question I almost always ask people is, introduce yourself, tell me what you do now. And then I go to, well, tell me where you were born and raised, something about your family, something about growing up. And we start there, and I walk them through their education, through their profession, and finally arrive at where they are now in life and what they're doing. So it's a very chronological set of questions that I ask them and guide them through that. And that seems to work really well with people, no matter what their age is. But anyway, that's kind of an overview of how I conduct these. As Alan said, it may not be completely accurate, okay, as far as what they're saying, but it's the way that they remember it. It's their perspective. And to me, that's just as valid as the facts. So we capture that. I don't edit these. These are not edited. They are just raw interviews. Of course, I bring them in and I'll sweeten the audio. I'll clean up any color issues. I trim it at the beginning and the end. And then we just export it as a complete interview. And then I have a list of deliverables that under my contract with the Discovery Foundation that I deliver to them for which includes a master video file, a couple of those, something that's a suitable video file that's suitable for online streaming, an audio file, a transcript, and a written transcript of the entire interview, and a couple of other things. So it takes me, oh gosh, maybe a total of 10 hours, 10 to 12 hours per interview, man hours to do one of these, depending on how long it is. So I've been busy this summer. I've stayed pretty busy with that this summer, and I'm glad I was able to do it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has about those.
If you have any questions, just speak up. Keith will be glad to respond.
Sure, absolutely.
Two of the exits.
I'm also watching the chat. If you want to put something in the chat, I'll get the questions to Alan or Keith. So please join in if you have any questions.
And if you wish, we can go ahead and play an excerpt. We have I have Harold Connor and Mike McGill excerpts if you want to, just as a sample of what Keith's produced already this summer.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
So the co-op days were great days. I learned a lot. It went up the food chain, I guess, in jobs and capability. When I look back over that, I've given talks over my career, and one of the talks I have given said from co-op to the top of the organization.
There you go.
So ultimately, I did end up being the site manager of the K-25 site. And starting from this lowly co-op student, and I ran the place.
How many years did it take for that to happen?
Actually, when it was 1994, when I became site manager, and I hired in full time in 1968.
Oh, okay.
Got married to my beautiful bride, Joyce, in 1970. And
so 21 years was what it, how long
I moved up, Herb Trammell, Ralph Dunley, Bill Wilcox, and all those guys. I worked with them. And in those days, you started out as a group leader. Then you rose up to a section leader where you could be in charge of 30, 40 people. And department head, you could be in charge of 100 people or more. And then division manager, where you could have several hundred. And then I ended up being a site manager. So it was quite a rise, from this lowly co-op student to becoming a site manager. And ultimately, the site manager role, I had it for 2 or 3 years. And then I became the vice president of all the enrichment sites.
Wow.
So I was in charge of the K-25 site, the Portsmouth gaseous diffusion site, and the Paducah gaseous diffusion site. So
that's a good example, I think, of one of the interviews that touches obviously on the Cold War era. Harold Connor, if you don't know him, and just an amazing man. He's on our board of directors here at the Oak Ridge Discovery Foundation as well. Did so many things with DOE through the years, and I think Keith did a fabulous interview with him. One of the other things I know that we're talking about is the nuclear renaissance, and one of the interviews that
before you leave that one,
please.
That's okay. I'm just going to make a cute comment.
Please.
Look how the caption spells Paducah.
I know.
Keith, we won't hold you responsible for that.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with that. I will say, now this is something that's technical. This is a little detail that you may have noticed or may not have noticed, but for me, it drove me crazy. Is when I'm teaching, when I'm teaching my students about how to interview and things to do, the very first thing that I tell them is try to get a chair that doesn't swivel. Okay? Because you'll see Harold was sitting there doing this, and I said, it may not be obvious, but when you get a close-up of it, it'll make you seasick. So, but sometimes, that's where he wanted to sit. That's where I was going to let him sit. Okay? So sometimes you can't have everything that you want. But anyway, most of the time I try to set it up.
You have to go with your first rule, and that is make them comfortable. And he's
make them comfortable. That's exactly
chair.
Right.
You're right.
That's exactly right.
Okay, Alan, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. I used to have a chair when I was doing the podcast from home. That was so squeaky, and that was also a challenge. I had to remain extraordinarily still, or the squeak took over the podcast.
I have the same problem with the one I'm sitting in right now.
So one of the other topics, nuclear renaissance, we're talking about, and Keith was able to talk with Mike McGill, and we're going to show a quick excerpt from that interview as well.
Where the two counties, Rome County, Anderson County, and the city of Oak Ridge would really commit to work together. And oddly enough, the counties have never done that. They've never worked together with the city on any specific goal in mind or objective or initiative. They've never, and it's tragic, but it had never happened.
Now, was this conversation just kind of in general, or was it a specific?
No, the conversation was specific in economic development.
Okay.
and really trying to look at how can we capitalize on the resources that we have here in the area of, the science and technologists coming out of the National Laboratory. I mean, all the great work in national security that they do at CNSY-12.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of the University of Tennessee, taking advantage of Tennessee Valley Authority.
Mm-hmm.
And just the history that we have here, the recognition and appreciation and understanding and respect that we have for nuclear, because there was a need and there is a need. And there was some movement of how do we try to expand on nuclear energy, because the country, the world is moving, requiring more power. And so we came up with creating a not-for-profit economic development organization.
Mm-hmm.
We gave it the name the Oak Ridge Corridor Development Corporation. Oak Ridge Corridor, going back to what Senator Alexander,
Mm-hmm.
University of Tennessee President Alexander,
Yeah.
Secretary of the Department of Education Alexander, Governor Alexander, have been talking since the mid-'80s of marketing, promoting the Oak Ridge Corridor, because he recognized that name and that value that brand had all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, just another great interview. If we have time, we'll do one more. Wade Creswell, the Roane County Executive, also talking a bit about this development. So one of the four big topics we're talking about. Go ahead.
We do have time,
Hang
but
on.
let me ask you before you start this one, because I have to say things when it's on my mind. And this is for Keith or Alan, either one. Do we have Lamar Alexander scheduled for an interview?
No, not yet. But we have not yet.
Okay.
So,
but he's on the list.
He's on the list, obviously, for the first year. And I do want to say this. One of the really interesting things that I've been discovering, and I've done several of these, we're trying to get a really good mix of all of the four areas this first year that we're doing this. And I've done several on the nuclear renaissance. And these oral histories are not necessarily the stories that you're going to hear in the news. It's almost a behind the scenes of all the things that have been happening. So they're fascinating to see how some of these things developed and how some of these things that you hear in the news came to be. So to me, that's what's fascinating. And Mike McGill, who I've known since college, so I'm comfortable with him. And like Mike, he was able to tell me some of the background on some of these things. And Wade Creswell, who's the mayor of Roane County that you're about to hear from, kind of the same thing with him. He talked a little bit about the behind the scenes of all these things that are happening. So it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I think I picked two of them for this morning, because it's such a behind the scenes, interesting look at what's happening around us. And I will tell you, I first met Mike. I went on a trip with Mike and Randy Heeman, Wade Creswell, and others down to Huntsville. And part of that trip was to say, hey, what can we learn from Huntsville? Huntsville's done such an amazing job with X, Y, and Z. It was fascinating. When we sat down with the Huntsville people, they said, teach us how Oak Ridge is doing what it's doing. We're envious of how Oak Ridge is developing with nuclear energy. So it was interesting to see the other perspective. But I think a lot of Mike and of Wade both and what they're accomplishing right now. So we'll go to Wade Creswell.
One more comment before you start.
Yes.
Go ahead. That's all right. I got it.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I think that was a huge catalyst in reinvigorating that nuclear identity.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you had Kairos Power and TriSoX working with the lab and the community that announced they had come here. So you had the makings of the very first pieces of what would eventually become an ecosystem already developing.
So it started to snowball, didn't it?
Well, it did. It was kind of like that, overnight success over
sure,
80 years.
Exactly.
but it was. I mean, you had pieces that were popping up that were somewhat unrelated to each other, but it gave us enough understanding to see that, hey, there's some momentum here. If we gravitate around a nuclear identity, all the pieces are in place for us to, if we align and stay that way, to really capture something that's, number one, needed for our country, and number two, has extraordinary economic potential for our communities.
Yeah.
I will say to that, just to say what we're doing here at the Oak Ridge Discovery Foundation. We're part of the Tennessee Nuclear Network Initiative. Governor Lee invested a lot of money into the Tennessee Nuclear Network. We're on the education subcommittee. So we're talking a lot about how we help develop that next generation of folks working in the nuclear industry, everything from nuclear engineers to welders, how we're going to support these businesses coming into our region. So we're part of that discussion. We're also teaming up with Oak Ridge Associated Universities in that very thing of workforce development, STEAM education, looking toward nuclear and other things, artificial intelligence and so forth that are related to that. So with that, if you want, can you put up our email address, that last I have a PowerPoint slide with AMSI. Let's make sure we have that for them. So with that, I'm glad to answer any questions, and please do come see us at the museums. I will note that today, sadly, AMSI is closed. The other museums are open today, but K25 is open, but AMSI was affected by that electrical issue in town last week, and we're still getting our electricity back on throughout the museum. But hopefully that will be fixed quickly.
I have some comments on the nuclear renaissance, and I'm proud you chose to show those few examples. And as Keith mentioned, this is really a behind the scenes. And we are also going to interview some of the people that are with these new companies that are coming in. The person over TriSoX is my first example. I worked with him. Jason, I worked with him at Hatfield, worked with him at Y12, so I'm sure he'll be glad, and he's on our list. But we'll get some from each of these new companies coming in. Now, that you have to understand, when these people get to talk to the television companies and stations, and they're opening these new facilities, they're cutting ribbons, they're doing groundbreaking. The television will take what someone takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes to say, and they'll pull just a few seconds out of that and use it. Now, Keith knows this and knows it well. That's the standard approach for news media, and they're going to adhere to that. We have the flexibility of being able to go in much greater detail in these oral histories. Now, I've put together a presentation that talks about these new companies coming into town. I used some of the news footage, and I introduced each of the new companies and what they're doing in Oak Ridge. Now, that's going to be an Oricl class in the fall. It's going to be an in-person Oricl class. It's already scheduled, but I forgot the date. But it'll come out in the new calendar. And in addition to that, Keith McDaniel and I do something called Hidden History, Stories from the Secret City. And it's on YouTube. And I put that presentation out there just a few weeks ago. So if you want to learn more about these new companies, that's one way you can do it, is just go on YouTube to Hidden History, Stories from the Secret City, and then just scroll down and it'll have all of them listed. Keith, I believe we have 160 of them out there now.
Yeah, I think 154, 155 at this point. We've been doing this for
4 years.
How many? 7 years now?
7 years.
No, it's 6 or 7 years. We do about 20, 24, 25 a year.
We started in 2020 because we were going to do a podcast, and then COVID hit, and we said, and I say this often, the only good thing coming out of COVID is Zoom. So when we couldn't get together to do a podcast, we said, let's just do it on Zoom. And you know, the
Yeah.
thing about that is we can interview almost anybody. And Alan, you know this because you do it with AmsiCast. But for example, we interviewed General Groves' grandson, Dick Groves, when he was in the Netherlands. So Zoom allows us to do that sort of thing. Anyway, that's just a shameless plug for hidden history stories from the secret city, Alan.
Any
Any
questions?
questions you guys have? If you have any questions at all, please just unmute yourself and ask away. We'd love to have a dialogue with you.
Okay, this is Roger Macklin. I heard a talk by a Christina Leggett, that's a nuclear engineer, PhD, concerning the Oklo fuel technology processes and everything. She might be a good one to get an interview with rather than just the PR folks or heads, the
Is she
exec
employed?
CEOs and stuff.
Is she employed by Oricl?
Yes,
Okay, I have,
Director of Fuel Cycle Technology.
and her name is,
Got her card here.
there you go, hold it still. All right,
Brian,
don't laugh, Alan. I've got it on speaker. Try it.
Hold
Wait
still.
just a minute.
Hold still.
Okay, that I have the Emily Smith is the public relations person for Oklo, and I have her contact. I text with her all the time. We can make that happen. We'll get that engineer you're talking about, and of course, we'll let Emily help us, and she may even have others that she can suggest. But the Oklo technology for taking all of the spent nuclear fuel that we have and repurposing, recycling that to produce primarily plutonium, but produce product that can be used for small modular reactors as fuel. The interesting thing to me is that when I had lunch with the president of Oklo Company, and he made a comment that there was enough energy left in spent nuclear fuel. He comments that only about 5% of it's used in reactors. When it comes out, he says there's enough left in the spent nuclear fuel in the nation to equal about 1.3 trillion barrels of oil.
Mm.
And I said, oh my goodness. But anyway, if there is energy left, which there obviously is, and they have a technique, and in fact, that technique's already being used in France, so it's not a new technique, but it's good that we're going to be able to use what people routinely call waste. And I always correct them when they say that, but they don't pay any attention to me. They're insisting on it being waste. But if we can prove that there's energy still remaining and can be used to fuel small modular reactors, I think that'll be one of the great successes in Oak Ridge.
I'll tell you, we're excited that at the Nuclear Opportunities Workshop coming up, that DTEC heads up, down at the Convention Center in Knoxville, we have been asked to bring AmsiCast to that, and we're going to interview a lot of the speakers and attendees as well. So hopefully get a lot of those companies as well as part of that conference.
Excellent.
Yeah, with Ray's comments on finding the energy from the quote waste in the spent nuclear fuel, it's sort of similar to Congress at one point having said that no money can be spent on anything with the U-233 except disposal. And now we've managed with private investment and stuff to get the thorium, the thorium and the actinium-225 is the particular one they're after for cancer research, for alpha particle therapies and stuff, which is amazing good reuse.
I agree. That is one of the great success
And
stories.
if we could find somebody that can speak to that story, that would be an excellent part of history as well.
I agree, and I have a contact into that organization as well. and I'm confident that they'd be glad to be interviewed about it. So we'll pursue that. The U-233 story is an amazing positive nuclear medicine story that is not
Absolutely.
getting enough attention, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Roger. Appreciate your comments and questions. Anyone else? We still got plenty of time. David, you look like you're looking for it. You found it. Ask what?
The thing that impressed me here is just I'm always trying to think of, is there a replicable model here? And just the experience with Ray, you and Keith working together over the years and putting together all these, videos and films and just the oral history, project. It seems that I'm just picturing that being replicated, in other places, and I'm sure it is, but it's just that you've really taken that to quite a high level. That's one aspect of it is just the value of replicating what is being done here in other places that have great stories as well. And then the other thing that I think about all the time is just how to get, quick access to videos from any source to, prove a point. And I'll use just one example of a person who has cerebral palsy, 13 years old, needs to be carried anywhere, can't speak, but she watches videos, and she is able to communicate with people by remembering a scene in a particular movie or video she's seen and pull that up just to show what she's trying to communicate. And so, um, you know, I I think in terms of three things that will guide the rest of my life: Sawaba, Cool Cat, and Point. I'm going to talk about point. And point is just that the concept that anything can be represented by a point. You've got everything on one end and the smallest possible thing on the other, and this, continuum in between them. And so, um, how can we have a resource access system that basically you've got a point from, okay, I'm here, and I've connected to these other resources, meaning that today I'm aware of the YouTube channel that's got all these oral histories. And so just to be able to take a cursor, finger, whatever, and start going down a particular path and seeing how it connects and branches to others, and using um, a basically sliding, moving on the points of a tree from root system to branching system, just to be very quickly do research that way, in addition to to what you put in a search bar, whether that's orally entered or text. But that's the type of thing that I'm sure there's something there. It's one of those things that won't get out of my head. I don't have anywhere close to the capability to do something like that. And yet, I mean, the closest thing is this course that I'm doing with Oracle in the fall called Community Learning Systems Integration. Um, I don't come in as an expert to teach that class. I'm basically saying, okay, here's a challenge for all of us. The people in the room are going to probably have much more expertise than I do. So how do we use that experience of coming together over 4 sessions to um, find some real common ground that's worth pursuing? So that's kind of rambling, but those are the things that.
I appreciate that. I think you're on a really good track. And let me tell you that what I have found is that artificial intelligence can do that for you. Now, artificial intelligence is not smart, okay? So it makes mistakes, but it is highly capable of looking at an enormous amount of data in a matter of seconds and giving you summarized information from that data. Now, interestingly enough, we're building giants of Oak Ridge. The Wildcat Manufacturing in the Oak Ridge High School is going to 3D print these statues. Now, I'm on the Arts, Culture, and History Alliance board for the city manager and the city council, and they ask us to identify where we would locate these statues. So what I did was go to artificial intelligence and I gave it two photographs. I gave it a photograph of a statue and a photograph of a location. And I asked it to put that statue in that location. And it was able to do that in a matter of seconds. I said, now turn it 80 degrees, 90 degrees, whatever. But anyway, I also ask it to give me and whatever information I'm looking for. For example, if I were to ask it to tell me what Oricl does with spent nuclear fuel, I guarantee you within 2 seconds, I would have a high level executive summary of what that does. So I'm not saying that artificial intelligence is the answer for everything you're suggesting, but I'm telling you that I believe it's a good start and it's something that I use routinely, so much so that I'm on first name basis with the artificial intelligence tools.
Yeah.
And they let me correct them when they make mistakes, and they do make mistakes.
Yeah, I use ChatGTP all the time, and if for some things related to this, but yeah, that's the conversation that hopefully we can have a build on later.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for that. Really appreciate it. Anyone else?
One more comment, you might be sure to include on the list for statues, although there is one at the Oak Ridge History Museum right in the front, Ed Westcott.
Yeah,
and
Ed Westcott.
The photographic history that came before the oral and videos.
Yes, and I am very proud
that could link into David's kind of idea of a full thing where you could access those photographs as well as the oral histories in a package or integrated system.
There's enough of them out there now. There's probably about 500 of Ed's photos out there. And by the way, I am delighted to see his statue being the first one. But you have to know that it was much more expensive than ones we're going to be able to 3D print at the high school. Yeah, but at any rate, I'm really proud to see it there. Now, if you were to ask artificial intelligence to give you Ed Westcott photos of any given subject you want to ask it for, I guarantee you it'll pull them out. You have to realize, however, Ed has 15,250 negatives on cold storage in the National Archives that are just about the Manhattan Project in Oak Ridge. We may have 500, 600 of them available to us here in Oak Ridge, either through the library or on, what is it? There's some on Flickr from the Department of Energy, and there's another one out there.
Ray,
yeah.
Speaking of that, when I first started working on Secret City, the Oak Ridge Story, the documentary, the first one, The War Years. This was in 2002, 2003, because it came out in 2005. One of the first things that I did, because I knew it would be important, was to have a worker spend 3 weeks in the Oak Ridge room of the public library and scanned every one. And I think there were between 800 and 1,000 of them. Every one of the black and white Ed Westcott photos. So I think I'm probably the only person in Oak Ridge that has a digital collection of all the Ed Westcott. And then we scanned them at high resolution because they were 8x10s. Pretty high resolution for back then. So I'm not even sure the library has that. But anyway.
I thought you donated that to the library. Think about it.
I don't know if I did or not. I may have.
I think you did. I
But
think Mike
anyway,
Cello has it, and I believe it's online now.
does he? Well, that's good if he does.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, but I've got it somewhere on a hard drive laying in the closet.
I understand.
But anyway,
Anyway, that is Ed Westcott photographs. If we didn't have those, we would have a hard time telling our history as effectively as
oh
we.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah. So everybody,
absolutely.
other comments, questions? Alan, anything more you want to comment on?
I think that covers it. I was just going to say to David's comments, I look forward to playing any role I can, David, in your course this fall. And I know we have put together a very, very rudimentary way an AMSI index, kind of to your point of where trying to get a handle on what resources are out there as you look at this amazing universe of stuff we have. If you're interested in a specific topic, where do we have those resources as part of what we're doing? And we're working now to make that more interactive and so forth. So when you go on our website, if you're interested in biology or whatever the topic might be, dinosaurs, we just had a big dinosaur day. If you say, here's the lesson plan we have, here's the part of the exhibit that deals with that. Here's a public program we had that we videoed that's online. Here's an AMSIcast episode that deals with that topic. So we're trying in our way to do that. And I will say also, AI is right. Ray's right. By the way, Ray is the best friend of AI. He uses it like no one else. He's been good with AI. So when it takes over, Ray Smith is going to be your guy to know.
I'm having
Alan?
too much fun with it.
Alan,
Yes.
let me ask you a question, Alan. Yeah,
Yes.
one of the things about the original Center for Oak Ridge Oral History, they had a website, and it had all the oral histories listed. But to be quite honest, it wasn't as robust or accessible as I thought it needed to be. So AMSI, like you mentioned earlier, Alan, you all are going to create a channel on your YouTube page
Right.
that has all of these oral histories. Do
Right.
we have any kind of ETA on when we can expect that to happen?
With this first set of interviews, do we know, Marcus, where that stands in terms of making them public rather than private? Because we have them.
Start putting them out by next week.
Yeah, we can start by next week putting those up. So we have the infrastructure pretty much ready to go, and we can start putting up this first set that we've downloaded next week.
Okay, so people will be able to just go to your YouTube page and find a channel that has all the oral histories, and will of course will be added to all the time. So if people are interested in watching them, that will be an easy way for people to access those.
That is correct. That's right.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right, Alan, thank you very much. And
Thank
Keith,
you all.
thank you both. And appreciate the support that you've had, Alan, there from Marcus.
Yes.
We look forward to seeing those up on YouTube as soon as you can get it done, Marcus.
He's on it.
All right. Very good. Okay, guys. Thank you all very
Thanks
much.
to all.
Yeah.
Thank
Now
you.
before you leave, don't leave me. Remember, I'll have this same series in the fall. We'll do 3 Monday mornings again. And you have my email address and my phone number. Any way you can contact me, let me know what you would like to see me focus on for stories from the Secret City. We can go almost anywhere, but I need you to tell me what you'd like to see. If you don't tell me, I'll come up with something on my own. Okay?
Or
I just
through
wanted to share one thing
ChatGPT.
real quick on
Okay.
response to that is just one of the things that attracted me to Oak Ridge was the amount of community organizations per capita. And that came out of, from my perspective, of the fact that you've got all these guys working in the facilities, and all these women raising families here and figuring, okay, how do we build a community? We start with small organizations. So that particular how the origin of the community organizations that exist would be very interesting from my perspective.
The first one to be formed was the Girl Scouts. They formed theirs and General Groves agreed to it, but you're right. Those organizations started forming almost immediately in 42, 43 especially. And then you had even the Civic Music Association had its first origin early into the Manhattan Project. So that's a good thought to see how we can. I'll ask artificial intelligence. How many organizations, community organizations, are there in Oak Ridge, and when were they formed? That's the question that'll go to AI.
And Ray, I can tell you, I'm on the nonprofit council here, so a lot of those organizations are represented on that, and I'll be glad to assist in any way I can.
Hey, good, good. I think that's an excellent resource. And if you don't mind, send me a list of that, whatever information you can easily obtain there, and I'll put that in the itinerary for our coming programs this fall.
You got it. I'll do it.
You know, every time you come up with something like that, you get an assignment.
Well, I'm with Marcus, and I'll say, Marcus, you have an assignment.
I understand. All right. Thank you, all your faithful followers, and I appreciate you being here, and we'll see you again in the fall.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.